And you had never met the couple.
No.
But you said that the love between Harry and Meghan was palpable in the room. Yeah. What do you mean by that?
If you looked, and you could see it, how they looked at each other, and you could tell these two people actually love each other. And, I mean, you could just see it. And I became really aware that, you know what, the love they have for each other is what brought all the various worlds together, that crossed all the boundaries of our differences. That love did it. And so it was really clear. Wow. And they selected the scripture passage. I didn't select that. And they put the Song of Solomon from the Hebrew scriptures right in the Bible, which is love poetry. Right. And literally in the passage that they selected was when the woman in the poetry actually realizes that their love that they're experiencing is part of a greater love. And that's pointing in the direction of the God who's the source of all this love. And that was, they had preached the sermon before I ever opened my mouth.
Wow. Wow. They had a little floor plan for you.
Yeah.
What immediately stands out to me in this clip is not just what's being said, but who is saying it. This is Michael Curry, the very man who delivered that unforgettable sermon at the wedding of Prince Harry and Meghan Sussex. He wasn't observing from a distance or forming opinions based on edited clips or tabloid narratives. He was right there, in the room, witnessing the dynamic between Meghan Sussex and Prince Harry as it naturally unfolded. So when he says their love was palpable, that's not interpretation, that's testimony. That's someone walking into a space with no personal agenda and walking out having felt something undeniable. And what really strikes me is how that observation hasn't aged, it's actually held up. Because years later, through all the noise, the criticism, the relentless media cycles, we can still see that same connection in how Meghan Sussex and Prince Harry choose to show up for each other. And I emphasize choose because it's intentional. Love at that level is not passive, it's active. It's in the small gestures, the micro moments, the consistency over time. Watch them at any public appearance, and you'll notice it almost immediately. The hand holding that people love to overanalyze. The way Harry instinctively positions himself slightly toward Meghan Sussex, almost like a quiet anchor. The way she checks in with him with just a glance, like they're having a whole conversation without saying a word. That's not performance, that's familiarity. That's what happens when two people are deeply in sync. And here's the part critics don't seem to grasp. If it were fake, it would have slipped by now. Under that level of scrutiny? Please. We're talking about years of constant observation, countless appearances, different environments, different pressures. You cannot maintain a facade that consistently without cracks. At some point, the mask would drop. And yet, it hasn't. Now, let's take it a step further, because for me, the most telling reflection of their relationship isn't even in their public appearances, it's in their children. And no, we don't see their kids constantly, and that's by design. But from what we do know, from what they've shared about their parenting, there's a very clear picture being painted. A picture of intentionality, of emotional presence, of creating a different kind of environment than what Harry himself experienced growing up. Children absorb energy. They mirror what they see. You cannot build a stable, emotionally grounded family dynamic on something artificial. It doesn't work like that. And everything about how Meghan Sussex and Prince Harry speak about their kids, how they prioritize them, how they've structured their lives around protecting that space, it all points back to a strong, united foundation between them. And honestly, that's where love becomes undeniable. Not in grand speeches or viral moments, but in the quiet, everyday decisions. The way they protect each other, the way they protect their family, the way they continue to choose each other even when the outside world is doing everything it can to pull them apart. Now, I know comparisons can make people a little uncomfortable, but let's not pretend they're not already happening. So let's talk about it. When you look at Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales, what you generally see is a much more reserved, traditional presentation. Their interactions are measured, controlled, very much aligned with the expectations of a long-standing institution that prioritizes formality and composure. And to be fair, that's their lane. That's the role they've chosen to operate within. No one is saying they have to behave like Harry and Meghan Sussex. But, and this is where I'm going to push back a bit, the double standard in how these two couples are perceived is hard to ignore. Because when Harry and Meghan Sussex show visible affection, when they hold hands, when they share those small human moments, it's suddenly labelled as too much, inappropriate, or my personal favourite, staged. Meanwhile, when William and Catherine maintain a more distant formal dynamic, it's praised as dignified and royal. So, which is it? Is love supposed to be visible or only acceptable when it's hidden? Because what I see is not one couple being better than the other, but two completely different expressions of partnership. One rooted in openness and emotional accessibility, the other rooted in tradition and restraint. And yet only one of those expressions gets consistently criticised. And I'll be honest, sometimes the criticism aimed at Meghan Sussex and Prince Harry feels less like genuine observation and more like discomfort. Because there's something about their authenticity that challenges long-held expectations. It disrupts the idea that love, especially within that institution, has to look a certain way to be valid. And let's not forget, this is the same couple that people predicted wouldn't last. The same couple that was scrutinised from day one, dissected, doubted, dismissed. And yet, here they are, years later, still aligned, still connected, still moving as a unit. And that brings me back to Michael Curry's words, because they hit even harder now. They had preached the sermon before I ever opened my mouth. Think about that. Before the speeches, before the headlines, before the global audience fully processed what they were witnessing, the message was already clear. Their connection spoke for itself. And the thing is, it still does. Because love like that doesn't need constant validation. It doesn't need to prove itself to every critic or respond to every narrative. It just is. It shows up in consistency, in presence, in the way two people navigate the world together, especially when that world isn't always kind to them. So when I hear people still questioning the authenticity of Meghan Sussex and Prince Harry's relationship, I can't help but raise an eyebrow. Not because criticism isn't allowed, but because at some point we have to reconcile what we're being told with what we can actually see. And what we can see clearly, consistently, is a partnership that has endured, evolved, and remained grounded in something very real. Now, before I wrap this up, I want to hear from you because this conversation is far from over. Do you think Meghan Sussex and Prince Harry's way of showing love is unfairly judged compared to other royal couples? Do you see authenticity in their interactions, or do you think the criticism has some merit? And how much do you think tradition should influence how public figures express their relationships? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's really get into it. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to subscribe, support the channel with super thanks, and yes, buy me a coffee if you can. It genuinely helps keep this channel going and these conversations alive. I'll see you in the next one.